My name's Michael Mast, and I'm going to be sharing today 5 tips on how to make your arrival in a foreign country less stressful. Tip number 1. It seems very simple. A pen. Put a pen in your backpack. Here's why. Every foreign country that I've ever been to, they require you to fill out an arrival card, and then on the way home, they require you to fill out what's called a departure card. And it's basically just a piece of paper. It's usually about this big, but it's perforated in the middle. And it just has your name, where you're going to stay, passport number, flight number, those types of things that you fill out. And they won't let you into the country without it, and they won't let you out of the country without it. And here's the good thing. If you lose the form, no big deal. They've got extra at the airport as you either come in or leave going through customs. The problem is, every country I've ever been to, they don't have a pen. Or if they do have pens, they're out of ink. I don't know why. Probably it's cost prohibitive, as many people come in and out of airports. If they supplied everybody with a pen, I guess they'd be broke. I don't know. Put this in your backpack. I'm telling you, this has saved me more stress by putting a simple pin in my backpack. Plus, then also, you can be a hero to somebody else because they didn't bring one. All right, step number 2. Bring one of these. It's a SIM card ejector. Now, this tip is going to be kind of like 2 parts. So it's tip number 2, but it's in 2 parts. Anyways, just bear with me. A SIM card ejector. When you go to a foreign country, you're going to want to make sure that you can stay in contact with the people that you love on your phone. Not only that, having a smartphone as you travel, I don't know how we did it. I don't know how I did it in 1993, I think was my first trip to Southeast Asia. I had no hotel reservations. I was traveling with a bunch of, late teen, early 20s, and we just showed up in Thailand, and we just figured it out. There was no internet to book tickets. There was no Expedia. So anyways, nowadays it's a lot easier. However, it could also be a lot more frustrating if your tools don't work. Let me give you an example. You land, you've had 14 hours in the air, you haven't showered, you're tired, you're frustrated, you just want to get to the hotel and jump in the pool and have a beer, okay? You might need your phone for a lot of things. You might need to show the taxi driver the address. We'll get to that later. Make sure that you have a SIM card ejector for part 2 of this tip. Some people might tell you differently, and this is a little controversial. Go buy a SIM card, a data plan SIM card in the airport before you leave the airport. I know you're going to pay double. It's absolutely a premium. I do not disagree with the people who are probably going to, write comments on this and troll me saying that it's too expensive in the airport. I know it is. You're going to pay double. I think the most I've ever paid in the airport for a SIM card is $20 to $50, depending on the size I got, which sounds like a lot. If you're backpacking, if you're on a shoestring budget, you're probably, half my age and you want to roll the dice a little bit more. Good for you. That's awesome. I'm in my early 40s. I don't want to struggle that much when I travel anymore. So I buy a SIM card the minute that I get through customs. Here's why. You might want to just browse the internet as you drive in. A lot of times it's a very long drive from the airport to wherever you're staying. The other issue is you want to let loved ones know that you arrived safely. So when you buy that SIM card, use your SIM card ejector, right, to make sure that you can pop it in. Now, I know a lot of experienced travelers will say, yeah, Michael, but the place where you bought the SIM card, they have a SIM card ejector. Absolutely true. You're absolutely right. A lot of times they do. Let's say 99% of the time they do. I have found a place, however, once that did not. So there you go. But it's not really for the time in the airport. You know what it's for? It's when you're at the hotel 3 days from now and you want to call home, right? Or you need to switch in for a business call or something. You want to be able to switch your SIMs in and out easily. That's where this guy comes in. Bring a SIM card ejector. You'll thank me later. All right, guys, step number 3. And I realize that this one might be a little bit price prohibitive, so just ignore it if this is not up your alley. If you're staying at any hotel that's a brand name, and even some that you've never heard of, most hotels above a certain rate offer some sort of a car service. Now, they might charge you for it. A lot of times they do. If you are a member with like Starwood or the other ones out there, you might even have a car upgrade for free that you don't even know about. Here's why sometimes I do this. Not all the time. Sometimes I do this, depending on the country I'm going into. Again, we're talking about the first 2 or 3 hours that can be incredibly stressful when you arrive into a new country. You might have your kids with you. Again, like I said, you haven't showered, you're hungry, you just want a beer, right? You just want to get to that hotel pool. I get you. I've been there. So have somebody waiting for you. Have a car and driver waiting for you. Sure, it might be $100, might be $200, which sounds like a lot, and it might be. And again, if it is a lot for you, no worries. Don't do it, okay? We're going to go on to step number 4 after that. But if you do have the money and you want to do anything, I'm telling you, having somebody waiting for you there at the airport is worth its weight in gold. So if you got to pay a couple $100 to have somebody there, absolutely do it. Call ahead, ask for the concierge. They'll usually connect you to transportation, and book a car. I do this sometimes when I fly into Hong Kong. We did it when we flew into Thailand. My wife and I, if I'm by myself, I don't usually do it. But if you've got wife and kids and a lot of luggage, I'm telling you, getting a van with a driver from the hotel, it's going to be a lot less stress. All right, guys, step number 4. If you decide that the last step is just not your style or you can't afford it, no worries. You're going to need to take a taxi. Here's my recommendation. The minute you get through customs and the minute you get through the arrival hall, with everybody holding the sign, right, for all the people that booked a car, you're going to get inundated usually with some sort of a taxi service. So it's usually a guy will come up to you and say, taxi, 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 where are you going, taxi, taxi, taxi. They can seem very helpful. They can seem very friendly. They usually are. They're people just trying to, do a day's work. I get it. They're just trying to put food on the table for their family. I get it. They're going to charge you 2 to 3 times the going rate, even more depending on where you land. Then if you go and seek out the taxi line, the taxi stand, this is my recommendation. If you don't book your own car, ignore the guys that are trying to get you to go with them, and follow the signs in the airport that says taxi stands. And you'll see a long line. Depending on the time of day, it's usually a long line. It's usually outside. So depending on where you're going to fly in, it might be hot, cold, rainy, whatever. Prepare for it. This is where, again, that private car is nice, but you're going to take that. Here's why. The taxis who kind of queue up to pick up people that are in the official taxi stand line, they're licensed, they're registered with whatever country usually that you're flying into. The guys that try to pick you up at the gate, the reason they have to charge you 2 to 4 times or even more is because they don't have the proper licensing. They're not registered. So, private car, go to the taxi stand. Do not get the guys that try to solicit right outside of the arrival hall. They will rip you off, and sometimes they're absolutely dangerous, depending on where you go. Which takes me to tip number 5, last tip of the day, is before you leave, as you're in the departure hall, you're in wherever, you're flying out of San Francisco, you're in SFO, and you're sitting there, and you got a drink, and you're waiting for the flight to Thailand, let's say. Hopefully you know where you're staying. Look up the address right then, while you're still in San Francisco. Look up the address, take a screenshot of the address, and save it to your favorites in your smartphone. So most smartphone apps, I have an iPhone, you can tap a little star or a heart or whatever it is that makes it a favorite. Keep it in your favorites. Here's why. If for whatever reason you don't buy that SIM card, step number 2, or step number 3, if you don't buy that SIM card and your data plan isn't working, you can't get internet access, you're SOL, right? A lot of times if you're going into a foreign country, a non-English speaking country, or a non-native speaking country, wherever you're from, not that you all have to speak English, chances are the taxi drivers may not be able to communicate with you. So showing them the address is helpful. Here's the second part of that that's important. Got to go to TripAdvisor. I love TripAdvisor in general, but this one feature is amazing. If you look up most hotels, they will also give you the address in the local language. You have to scroll down a little bit in the app and you got to find it, and it'll say, location address in the local language. Also screenshot it in that language, okay? So screenshot it in your native language and then screenshot it in the native language in which you were visiting. Save them both to your favorites. That way, there's no issue when you go to the taxi drivers. So guys, hey, hopefully that helped you out. I realize some of it's probably self-explanatory. If you've traveled a lot before, you're probably saying, yeah, I know, Michael, I've done that. But these are simple tricks that have saved me time, they've saved me stress, and they've got me to the hotel faster to where I can jump in that pool and have a drink. I'll see you guys next time.